Just a second here. Wow. Well, I'm sorry about that, everybody. I just realized I forgot to hit the Go Live button on YouTube. I had hit it in my broadcaster software, but it wasn't in the ebook. I'm sorry, it wasn't in the YouTube chat. So I'm very sorry about that. So anyway, I apologize for that, and now we can actually get going. So in this live stream, I'm going to be talking about a few different things. Version 1.3 got released a couple weeks ago, and I unfortunately didn't have the occasion to do a live stream for it. So in this live stream, we're not only going to be talking about version 1.3, but we'll also be talking about version 1.4. And a big part, the majority of 1.4 is going to be showing you the progress I've made on the editor that I showed you in the last live stream. That's going to be a big part of the future of Nantucket eBooks. So I really look forward to showing you the progress on that editor. As well, I will have a question and answer session as always. So as far as that goes, you can submit questions in the chat here at youtube.com/ndhfilms/live, or you can submit it to me on Twitter, where my Twitter account is at Nantucket eBooks. So, also, you could email me at njb@nantucketebooks.com. So please send me your questions, and I will look forward to answering them at the end of the stream. On top of that, I also am going to look forward to showing you, I have something special planned for the end. So if you'll stick around, I look forward to giving you a little something special. So first we're going to talk about version 1.3. So give me just a second here. As always, the new versions are mentioned on the versions page, so that's going to be nantucketebooks.com/versions. So let me tell you about a few of those things. First of all, I introduced a new way of working with images on Nantucket eBooks, and it's something I call flippable images. And in certain cases, I think it really does add a lot to your book. Let's talk about that here. First of all, with version 1.3, a big motivator for working on that new version was The Great Gatsby. If you haven't heard, The Great Gatsby recently entered the public domain, and so now anyone can read it for free. And I knew I had to seize that opportunity and build a Nantucket ebook for The Great Gatsby. So we're going to go back here to... Okay, here we are on our site. And if you go down, and this is all live right now, we have The Great Gatsby down here. Before I go any further, there's something I also wanted to share, which is that we have 2 new short stories from David Stoner, who is a fantastic author in Colorado, and his short stories Night's Passage and The Dark Forest are both available for you to read online. If you've read his short story Gypsy, that was one of the first stories on our site, it was really remarkable, and these are much the same. Actually, I've heard feedback from some of David Stoner's audience. They really love this Nantucket format, that they can actually go onto their smartphone and read it, and it's a great reading experience online. It's a huge step above what you'd get on a site like Wattpad or WordPress or something like that. That you can actually read it and get that great experience, whether you're on a smartphone, you're on a tablet, or if you're on a desktop. It's going to look good no matter what you use. So please take a read of Night's Passage and The Dark Forest. Now we'll go down to The Great Gatsby here. So this is we got that beautiful cover that was by, what was his name? Francis Cugat. That's right. And I'm very pleased with this edition. I'll talk about it a little bit, but not only does it have The Great Gatsby, it also has F. Scott Fitzgerald's short story Winter Dreams, which he wrote earlier, but has a lot of the same themes and plot points as The Great Gatsby. So it's interesting to sort of see the origins of some of the ideas in The Great Gatsby get reproduced there. Let's talk about flippable images. Toward the end of The Great Gatsby, there's a section where one of the characters comes across something that another character wrote in the back of a book. This scribbled down. And in most cases, that's shown as like an HTML table or something trying to give the sense of handwriting. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was actual handwriting and that was part of the book? So let me show you that here. We've gone down toward the end of the book, and so to preface this, he seemed reluctant to put away the picture. He held it for another minute, lingeringly before my eyes. Then he returned the wallet and pulled up from his pocket a ragged old copy of a book called Along Cassidy. Look here, this is a book he had when he was a boy. It just shows you. He opened it at the back cover and turned it around for me to see. On the last flyleaf was printed the word schedule and the date September 12th, 1906. And underneath, and then you see sort of his schedule and these resolutions here. This is something that I added in with my own handwriting, and so one thing you'll notice is that it has a transparent background, so it's going to be the same color as the background. And so that's using a file format called PNG, which you're able to have these transparencies. Now, of course, part of Nantucket E-Books is that we have dark mode. If you're reading at night, you want something with less eye strain, so it'll invert it to black background and white text. Now the whole thing with a flippable image, I go up here and I activate dark mode. The illustration is going to be affected by the dark mode. So it's been replaced with the same thing, white text on a transparent background. So I think that this is a nice tool for writers where they can have, this is really good for like an illustration, or if you have like a section of handwriting within your book. So let me know if everyone can hear me still. Okay. But, so high. If I toggle it again, you see, this goes along with it. So that's a way, if you have an image that only has, it's only black color, it can follow along with the dark mode, and that really makes it feel like it's part of the ebook. So I think it's just another thing that you can use to improve your reader's experience. Take it back. Another thing we did with this edition of The Great Gatsby, I was interested, what if we made not only an ebook of The Great Gatsby, but all of the texts mentioned within The Great Gatsby? I thought that would be interesting for educators or readers to get some sense of what the literary landscape was back in the 1920s. So for example, we have this link here to Along Cassidy, and if we click on that, that's going to take us to the ebook of Along Cassidy that I developed. And it's just like any of the other ebooks, and it links to the other ones. It's got this nice cover here that was adapted from Wikimedia Commons. So I think that if you're interested in The Great Gatsby, this might offer an interesting perspective on the novel. But anyway, that's flippable images. And actually, I'll show you one more example here. It was in Stoddards Lectures. So here's another ebook that I built. This is mentioned in another chapter of The Great Gatsby, and it was a famous travelogue that was written in the early 20th century. So if I click it here, That's going to take me here to Stoddards Lectures, and this one has a lot of illustrations. We had to rework the way that illustrations are done. So here is John Stoddard's signature, and if I turn on dark mode, it follows along. So handwriting again, and also sketches. I think those would be the two best uses for flippable images. Another thing that we worked on was drop caps. And if you don't know, a drop cap, I'll show you one up at the top here. A drop cap is when the first letter of the first paragraph of a work is extra big, extra large. And it was often they could be very elaborate and ornate. So if we go in The Great Gatsby here, the famous opening line, "In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. When we feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had." So here at the top, in the first paragraph, is a drop cap. And the eye is a little bit bigger and it floats to the left. I'll find another example here. So in Stoddards Lectures, I have here like the O and of all the countries on our globe, Norway in some respects must rank as the most wonderful. I definitely agree with that. And for Along Cassidy, we have another one here. This actually looks like quite a fun one. But anyway, the T is capitalized. That's what a drop cap is. The way that drop caps worked initially, it was automated. It would look for the first paragraph of the book and add it there. But that's a little bit inconvenient sometimes. It may not be what the author wants, and it's very much true that some people like to put drop caps at the beginning of each chapter. So there's a new way of working on drop caps, and let me see if I can show you here. Okay, so I brought up my notepad. So really all you have to do, let me lower this so you can see it a little bit. So Norm, let's take the text here from Great Gatsby. Okay, and I'll enlarge that a little bit so you can see it. Cool. This is the text. If you want to add a drop cap, it's really simple. Just colon, drop cap, and that's all you have to do. And you can add that to at the start of as many paragraphs as you want. It's actually, before I close this, I'll say, for those interested in the shanty markup language, it's very similar to how you do text alignments. So if I wanted to center some text, all I do is center. This is centered text. And if I wanted to align it right, this is right aligned text. And then, of course, there is a left one, but it aligns left by default. So all you have, so the colon, and then add in what you want to do. So drop cap. That's the new. That's some of the new markup we've added. Let's see what else we had here. We had some bug fixes. One other bit of syntax that I'd like to show you actually came about from that travelogue. Let's say you have a lot of illustrations. Now, normally, the GAM, which is what parses this shanty syntax into an ebook, is going to look for each illustration that you have in your book and add them to the table of contents. That goes back to old books where they would have a whole section just for the illustrations. And I wanted to include that. But if you have a lot of illustrations, it could be cumbersome. I mean, that's the first thing that people are going to see, and maybe a wall of illustrations or links to illustrations isn't what they want. If that's the case, all you have to do at the top of your ebook is put the metadata which is 2 exclamation points, and then no illo talk, which is no illustrations, table of contents. I know that it's ILLU, but illo is something that an illustrator once mentioned to me, and I liked how it sounded. But no illo table of contents that will prevent the illustration section of the table of contents from loading. And that's all I have to put to customize like that. And of course, if you don't want any table of contents, you just have to put small. And that's great for short stories or poetry, short stories in particular, where you want your reader to get right into it. And there's not a lot of navigation that they have to do. So, let's see what else I had here. There's some stuff for date stamps, more automation of how images are oriented. And so anyway, that's it for 1.3. I think if we have the flippable images and drop caps and some other markup for, if you want to simplify your table of contents. With that in mind, let's talk a little bit about 1.4. Now, the big thing in 1.4, we have some basic improvements to the text resize feature. Someone had pointed out that when you enlarge text, the line height and the font size enlarge together, but there was a limit to how much you could shrink the line height when going down, and that led to some complications. So now that they're both going to be they're going to match each other, and also now there is a limit to how much you can enlarge or decrease the size of the text. So that should make it a little bit of a cleaner experience for readers. That was the big thing as far as the interactivity of the ebooks. The rest of the updates to 1.4 have to do with the editor, and I'm very excited to share those with you now. So, let's take a look. If you're on the main page of the site, we have a new, there it is. So now up here we have editor. So if I click on editor, it's going to take us into the editor. Now there's a lot to unpack here. Sorry about that. Okay. Everyone can still hear me. There we go. This is the in-browser editor for Nantucket E-Books, and I'll talk a little bit again about why this was necessary. The goal of Nantucket E-Books is to make it easy for writers to create and deliver the best ebooks on the planet to their readers. So anything that I can do to make it easier for writers to do that is something that I want to do. Part of that was the ability to write anywhere. I didn't want people to have to be dependent on one particular program, which is often the case with a lot of other ebook software. You have to use their program, or at least some kind of program, if you want to make an ebook. That's true with things like Calibre or Sigil or Kindle Create. What I wanted to do was something where you could write anywhere, because every writer has their own preferred way of writing. And I've talked about that a lot before, that a lot of people they write in Microsoft Word, or maybe they write on their phone using Apple's Notes app, or they just write in something simple like Notepad or GNU Nano. And then when you were ready to create your ebook, you just took all that text, feed it into my program, and it creates the HTML file, which is the foundation of the ebook. Now, part of that process was that you'd take your text, put it into the field on the main page of the site, you'd you'd generate it, and that would download an HTML file that you would also need to download an offline reader, which is a zip folder that I offer for free on the site. And so you'd copy it in there, and it's sort of a miniature version of the site that you could put your book in there and see how it looked. So there were a couple steps in there that weren't strictly, maybe it was too many steps. I still think that the offline reader is great if you're wanting to read a book, a Nantucket e-book in somewhere where you don't have a great internet connection, or you don't have any internet connection. But I think if you're a writer and you just want to preview what your book is going to look like, you need something more expeditious. With that in mind, I have here the editor. The goal with this was that you put your ebook, you put your text on the left-hand side, and then up here you click Run, and it's going to generate on the right-hand side. So let me show you some of these, how this is going to work. Left-hand side is where you do your input. So here's where you can type. This is the input section. Over here we have the output section, and this is where we have, it does a couple different things. So right now it just shows you a help page. I hope you get the idea, even if I'm here in the corner. We have a section here on documentation. So if you wanted to refresh your memory on a certain bit of markup, we have a link to the Shanty manual, and if you click it, it's going to bring it up right in this area. If you get lost somewhere, you need to get back, there's a little home icon right here, and if I click that, it's going to take me back to that help page. We also have a link to the FAQ section, where we will include various tutorials on things. And again, all I have to do, let's say I went down and I clicked on the manual for Shanty here. So that took me to the Shanty thing, but now I'm a couple layers deep, and if I want to go back to the main help section, I just hit this button again in the corner. There you go. So you can always get back if you're using this as the help section. You can always click here. We could also check what version, the difference between the different versions. Sorry, the air went on. So again, I could just click back, or if I wanted to download the offline reader, I can do that here, and that'll download the zip folder. So if you need any help on learning the Shanty markup language, you can do that all here. And you can always do it by clicking Help up here at the top. Now I'll show you, and by the way, if you ever want to go back to the main page of the site, you can click our little friend Otto, the Nantucket whale, up here. Cool, I'm capturing my display so I can actually show you some of the title tags. But then to go back to the editor, I can just click it here. And just to show you that again, if I want to go back to the main page of the site, I click here. And if I want to go back to the editor, I click here. That's all you have to do. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how you preview your ebooks. By default, the editor is going to load in this this text here. So this is some Shanty formatted text, and the goal with this text is it just shows you the basic elements you need to write your ebook. If a line is a comment, it's going to start with 2 slashes. So comments don't show up in the final ebook. It's just there for your convenience if you need to make a quick note to yourself about something that's happening in the plot, or I need to research this particular topic of the book you're writing. You can add that in a comment there. And it explains it right here. Lines that start with 2 slashes are comments. They won't appear in the final ebook. And we'll talk about what the metadata is for the ebook. We have a cover image down here. chapter heading here. You can tell because it starts with the hashtag or the pound sign. And then we have a drop cap here. And we have some different ways that you can format the text. So one set of asterisks is italic, 2 is bold text, and 3 is bold and italic text. If I wanted to see what this looks like as a Nantucket e-book, I go up to the top right here, and I click Run. And it generates instantly my Nantucket e-book. So I added the default cover here. This actually was a postage stamp from Iceland by an artist named Edward Fuglo, and it's in the public domain, so I think that's a cool default cover. If you don't want to add a cover to your ebook, you can just leave it blank, and then when people search for it, it will bring up this default cover. So let's see here. And what's really great about this, you can compare syntax and the final product side by side. So I see here I have a line that says title Shanty Basics, and I look at the right and I see how that results in the title appearing in the book. Same with author, and if I go down to copyright, you see how copyright 2021 Nantucket E-Books LLC gets added down there. The menu is going to get appended over on this side. We got our normal features, like there's our table. There's our table of contents if you're further down and we don't want to go all the way back up. Dark mode, all that's going to work. Obviously, bookmarking and favoriting aren't going to quite work in this preview version, but the menu buttons will show up there. And then we have our notes section. So you'll see how the notes append. And a cool feature is that if you were to take notes in this preview one, and then you click download this ebook, those notes will copy along, which is what you would expect with any Nantucket ebook. This is all running on version 1.4, or at least the minified version, which you can review in the versions page of the site right now. Let's close that here. We got our copy notes and our credits. And this all is very dynamic. Let's say I didn't want those table of contents to show here because this book is over in the blink of an eye. We don't really need a table of contents. I'll add small to the metadata, click Run, and now it's gone. So that's all very convenient. If this book happened to be in the public domain, just hit copyright public domain, and it'll tell you the text of this ebook is in the public domain. And since it's loading by default, if I reload the page, it's going to take me right back here. Now, you might want to preview how your images look, or if you have an audiobook edition, you might want to add that in as well. Let me show you how that's going to look. I've shown you this picture before. It's from an old sci-fi magazine, and I think it's really cool. It's called Follow Me. It's made by a science fiction illustrator named Emsh, which was short for M. Schwiller. So let's say I wanted to add this one in here, followme.jpg. What I will do is I'll go up to the top here, and we have this menu up here, Add Images. I'll click Add Images, and I can upload it. Actually, it'll be cooler if I take this all out, show you how the whole thing works. Okay, so I've clicked Add Images up here, and it takes me to this upload window. I will click, so it's going to be a cover, I know. And I'll click, so you have like a cover, you have illustrations, and you have plain images. So there's different information that you can add for these different kinds of images. But let's just do a cover for now. I'm going to click Choose File, And I'm going to click Follow Me. So now we see that I've selected that option, that particular image right here. And then I click Upload Image. First of all, I see it here with the file name. And if I go down to the bottom, it says your image is loaded and your syntax is ready. So now if I click this, close window, and now I add it in. It automatically copied for me, so now it got pasted. And that's great if you, because I know that the syntax for images can have there's a lot to learn there. This is a way to help you learn, because it will show you what it is. It's a way of showing you, well, here's what you would add in. So we've added that in, we've uploaded our image, and we've got the syntax in. What happens if we click Run. So there it is. It added it in as the cover image. I think that's such a cool image. This particular, so this magazine was edited by a guy named John Campbell, who wrote the short story that became The Thing, the John Carpenter movie with Kurt Russell. And he was quite an interesting guy. But anyway, here it is. Let's try this image in a few different ways. So what if we didn't want that as the cover? We have a couple images preloaded. Did that work? I bet it didn't. Interesting. So we have that there. Let's see if we wanted to add in an illustration. So I'm going to go up to Add Images here, and we'll click Illustration. We'll choose that Follow Me file again. Cool. And now we'll say, so with illustrations we can have a couple options here. And so we'll put in his name, which was Emsh, and the caption will be Follow Me. So I clicked Upload Image, and it gives me the syntax here. I can just click it. I don't have to add it myself. Go down. Hello, follow me. So it puts, here's the tag that lets it know it's an illustration. Here's the source of the file. The illustrator is Emsh, and the caption is Follow Me. So if I run that, there it is. Follow me. Let's add a plain image. For plain images, we're going to select Plain Image. And let's add in this thumbnail for my documentary Blackstone's Equation, which I streamed here last week. Plain images can also be ornaments, and what that is if you don't want, so typically if you want to do a thematic break, it's going to be a gray line that divides the text. I can show you an example in The Great Gatsby. But if you want to do an ornament, it'll put an image where a thematic break would go. This isn't going to be an ornament though. And the title we'll say is Blackstone's Equation. Click Upload Image. Here's my image gallery. So this shows me everything that I've uploaded. And if I wanted to delete it, I could do so down here. But it's uploaded, and we can see it's going to be a landscape image. And it added in our syntax down here. So it's got our source and the title. Title isn't strictly necessary though. I'll close the window now. And down here, oh, there we are. And if I click Run, there it is. And it automatically detected that it was a landscape image, gave it the proper styling, so it looks good on the page. And you can see the difference here, that this is a illustration, so that means I can click on it and focus it in the full screen. It gives me a nice caption over here, and then the name of the illustrator. Plain images don't have that. They're just there, but actually you can see the title tag shows up, the text that I wanted. Yeah. So that is how you do, that's how you preview images in this editor. Let's talk about audiobooks though. So our audio, I wonder what I'll add actually. I have an idea. So we'll just put the audio here that lets it know to add an audiobook player. And I generally put the files for audiobooks underneath their respective chapters. So in this case, double at audio, that lets it know it's part of it. And then we're going to do, what am I doing? So you go up here, you click add audio, choose file. Let's say we wanted to add the first chapter of Candide. So I'd go let's see here. There it is, Candide chapter 1. Cool. We have to add a title though. So this will be chapter 1, upload audio, and there it is. So up here we've got we have a gallery for all our images, we have a gallery for our audio. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but
this is a LibriVox recording. Candide by
it is playing, so you can listen to it all. And so that's uploaded, and we will add in our syntax here. So that will be audio source Candide chapter 1.mp3 with a title being chapter 1. Before I upload this, you'll see that there is no audio icon in the menu. Hit run. Now there is. So I click play here. I would love to show you how this works. Let's try it another way. Let's see here. And we'll try add audio. Candide chapter 1. Perhaps I spoke too soon on that one. But that is a feature that I am excited about. You can still see up here, so it's still in the gallery.
This is a LibriVox.
We have that available. So let me show you a few other things you can do here. Part of this is to help show people how the shanty syntax works. So I thought it'd be interesting to have people take a look at some different files, and so they can see for themselves how it works. So up here we have this button, try out a file, and it's going to give us a few different files that we can try out. So again, here we have The Great Gatsby, and if I click on that, that's going to when I clicked on it, it's going to automatically load up the shanty text for The Great Gatsby. And then it automatically loaded it, so I can see here side by side how it looks. We've got some comments that explain different things. And then you can look here and see how we added in like keywords, description that makes it easier to search for an ebook online, category classics, the copyright's the public domain. So the cover image is here. We have a dedication, once again to Zelda. So that's at DED for dedication. Here is a block quote to start with. It's interesting that this person, Thomas, is actually a pen name for F. Scott Fitzgerald that he used in an earlier novel. So we got our drop cap here, and we have our chapter heading. So you can see how, so if you're curious about how it looks. Oh, so for example, there's one. So if you wanted to do a thematic break, you put in 4 asterisks. And this was interesting. This was a web designer who came up with this, and I reached out to him for permission because it was the best thematic break I'd seen online. But anyway, there isn't a lot of flourishes in terms of how the text is styled in The Great Gatsby. But you can see that this is a full-length novel, and it was very easy to put it in and preview it. It took no time at all. Let's try another one. So if I click Try Out a File, if I wanted to go back to the default one, I just click Shanty Basics, and here we are back with that one again. And let's see here. I want to show you another one. And this is one that I'm particularly fond of. This is Gray's Elegy, which is one of my very favorite poems. And if I go here, so you can see here, this is a good one for learning about how poetry is formatted. I've also added in some more comments trying to explain what these different bits of metadata do. And they don't show up in the final product, so it helps you in comparing the two. So, let's look at some of that formatting here. As we talked about earlier in another live stream, each line of a stanza in shanty starts with a grave accent, or also known as a backtick. And then there's some rules for how much you want to indent. But here's the famous opening line. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea. The plowman homeward plods his weary way, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. And so you can see how these lines are indented, and how there's space between the stanzas. And you can see here, okay, this is how that got formatted. And you can play around with it, see how far you can take it, and that sort of, try it yourself. I'm a big fan of that kind of learning. Let's see if I change this to a 2. That's going to double the amount of indentation on that particular line. And so I run it there, and I see that it's further indented than the other one. If I went it to 4, so you can see it really indents it there. But you can kind of try those things out for yourself. You can make it look however you want it, or you could let's say you didn't want it to be Gray's Elegy. You could take all the text out, and we could add in a different poem. What's another famous poem? I never saw a purple cow. I never wish to see one. But I can tell you anyhow. Final line, 2 backticks. My indentation. I'd rather see than be one. So now we've taken all that out. And this is not an elegy. It is the purple cow. So there we go. So now we've put in our own poem there. God, I wish I remembered who. It was a poet from San Francisco back in the Gold Rush days who wrote that. But anyway, it's a famous nonsense poem. And we talked about public domain. I'll show you one other cool thing here. So let's go back to our basic one. Loads it all up. If I wanted to download it, all I have to do here, click that button, and it downloads it. And that is very helpful. So you can preview your ebook and see it in the editor. But then you can, if you like it, you can download it right there, and it's all set to upload to the server. So it really saves you a lot of time. And I think that makes it a really exciting way of looking at it. What am I saying? Anyway, let me see if there was anything else I wanted to show you. If you wanted to, if you want to save your work, this is all being uploaded to your local system. If you reload it, it is going to revert back. But if you were working on something and you wanted to save it or come back to it, just have it preserved in case you needed to reload the page or close the browser. What you can do is click the Save Options button. I don't want to be too fast here. Right up there, Save Options. I click it, and it'll say Save Writing to Local Storage. A reminder to always keep a backup of your work there. But if I click Yes, okay, now let's write a new ebook. Title, History of Boulder, Author, NJB, keyword, and chapter 1. Boulder was founded in the late 1850s. You've heard it all before. I did that on my first live stream. Anyway, and we'll click Run. So there's our very bare bones story, but let's say I needed to do something else, come back later. If I go back here, I see I have it save the writing to local storage. And now I just reloaded the page and it saved it. So much like the notes that you would write in a Nantucket ebook that get saved to your device, these are also getting saved to your device. It's not on a server somewhere. It's with you, and that's part of my goal of having you have control over your own information, which is unfortunately a concept in short supply among a lot of tech developers these days. But if I reload it again, there it is. I can run it. It's up there. If you have any questions about how the editor works, I'd be happy to answer them. To just review, you can write your text on this side, and if you click Run, it'll get loaded out on the right side. You can also click Help to bring up some useful information like the manual or a FAQ page with different tutorials. You can save your work. So like if I said no over here, I'm done saving it, it will then go back to the default. So now that book is gone forever. But you can save those options there. You can add images and view them in a gallery using the Add Images page. You can add audio in the same fashion. To be continued on that one. And you can try out different files. Like here we had The Great Gatsby. This gets loaded automatically. But anyway, that was the big thing in 1.4, is getting the core software involved in Nantucket eBooks to play well with this new feature, the editor. To go over that again, you have the style sheet, which dictates how the ebook is displayed on different devices. We also have GAM, which creates the ebook itself. We also have the program Ahab, which controls the interactivity. And now it has another duty, which is automating the presentation of the images to a certain extent. Now they all have an additional thing, which is they have to work with this editor. And that's the big thing in 1.4. If you want to start making ebooks now, you can do that on the site. I'm pulling from the main site right now. And anyway, that's what I wanted to share. I'm very excited about this. I wanted to actually mention my ebook of Gray's Elegy, which I'll be uploading soon, was made using this editor, and so I can attest myself to how much to that this really is the next step in making it easy for writers to make ebooks. And the way I see it, the less that you have to worry about how your ebook's going to look or what's involved in making one, the more time you can spend writing your stories or engaging in that writing process. So the more time I can save you, where you don't have to think anything about the ebook, that's what I'd like to pursue. One more thing I'll say before we get into the Q&A is the name. Nantucket E-Books Editor might be a little bit of a mouthful, so I've spent a little bit of time thinking about what I wanted to call this. As I was doing some research, I found that, so as you know, a lot of this comes from Moby Dick. Nantucket was the island where the Pequod set sail within Moby Dick. Gam is the phrase for when two ships meet out on sea to exchange letters and supplies. Ahab speaks for itself. Now, as I was doing some research, I found that Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick at a farmhouse in western Massachusetts. And the name of that farmhouse was Arrowhead. So this isn't permanent for writing. This isn't something we're necessarily going to be stuck with. But I think at least for now, Arrowhead sounds like a pretty cool name to me. So anyway, that is Arrowhead, the Nantucket E-Books editor. And looks like we have some questions. I'm looking forward to answering those. Okay. Let's see. First question. You have uploaded quite a few public domain books to Nantucket eBooks. Did you format them in Shanty? Yes, all the books on the site were written with the Shanty markup language and then generated into a Nantucket ebook. I really love how easy it is to get that going, and it's really transformed my writing, I know. Because I knew I wanted to share my books with people through web pages and not having to say, well, go to this site and you can buy it. I just want, if you want to read it, here's the site. And what Shanty does for me is it saves me on the need to actually format HTML, which when you're talking about something like this that has a lot of interactive moving parts, you're copying and pasting huge blocks of code. If you need to go back and change something, it's very frustrating. Shanty helps streamline that process immensely. I would say it's about an order of magnitude simpler to write in Shanty and to get an online ebook that anyone can read and get fantastic reading experience. So the answer, in short, is yes. Another question. Editor is very cool. How difficult is Shanty to learn? I don't think it is terribly difficult to learn, and as a matter of fact, I'd say you can get the basics of it in a couple minutes. I'll give an example of that after we go through these questions. It's much easier to learn than like HTML, I would say, and it's just really describing the different parts of your book. There's a few core things you need to know, which can be explained very quickly. But beyond that, it's very powerful. And if you want to add different kinds of images, if you want to add audiobooks, if you want to add footnotes, if you want to add hyperlinks, which is part of what makes ebooks so powerful, there's a bunch of ways you can customize it that you can learn. And that's all in the manual. And I've worked very hard to make the manual look good when it's printed out. So if you want a printed version that you can read through, it's very easy to do that. But I'll show you some of the basics again. Another thing with that, I would love to do someone had recommended a live stream where I work with a writer and we have like Google Docs or something like that, and we could type through some questions about using Shanty. I'd love to do that. If you're interested in that, send me an email, njb@nantucketebooks.com. Another question here. So an author can just type away without much formatting, except maybe paragraph breaks. Then we'll shanty basic format it. Okay, let's take a look at this Great Gatsby here. So as far as paragraphs go, you can see here as the story goes on, there really isn't that much formatting you have to do. So as far as paragraphs go, you don't have to do anything. Now, let's say you wanted to italicize some text, like we have the word center here. Weird that it's spelled with an E in the British fashion. Maybe that's sort of a mid-Atlantic thing. So anyway, hit that. So now it's got 2 asterisks on either side. That's going to be italicized. Hello? Oh. Hello? Oh, there we go. So yeah, there's very little that you have to strictly do. Here's another one. Look at that. Neighborhood with a U. Okay. So some other formatting, like here we have a dedication. Here we've got the formatting for poetry. Here's a paragraph that's been aligned right, and we'll see how that looks here on the other side. This is so great because you can here's before and after. That's really cool. There it is. So it aligned it right hand side, and you can see how the poetry here. Then wear the gold hat if that will move her. If you can bounce high, bounce for her too. Till she cry, lover, gold-hatted, high-bouncing lover, I must have you. Yeah, that's very simple there. And last question I'm seeing here right now. Can something be printed from an ebook entry? That's a good question. So I am working on some styling that will be affected if you're using a printer. I have gotten it now that if you're using a printer, all the interactive features go away because you don't need them in print. But you just have... so that is something that I'm working on. Pretty straightforward if you're just printing out to 8.5 by 11 paper. If people want to print it in a different way, that could be a little bit tricky to make it look good. But that is something that I'm working towards, that when you print it out, you get a high-quality document that you can enjoy. It's all about creating a great reading experience for readers. Let me check here if we have any questions on Twitter. Doesn't look like we do. If that was it, I wanted to say thank you all very much, and I wanted to give a thank you again to Tom B., our patron. This is the first update to Nantucket E-Books to be supported by patrons, and look forward to many more updates. So thank you again very much for your support. With that in mind, I'd like to leave you with something nice, and really I don't feel like I'd get away with not doing it now that we have an ebook of The Great Gatsby up. This is especially appropriate because we're in a time right now with a lot of serious debate about what's acceptable in books, what's not acceptable. You've probably heard about what happened with certain Dr. Seuss books, that the Dr. Seuss estate essentially pulled them because of controversial imagery. And recently, locally, we've had a public library in the Boulder area has decided to pull certain Dr. Seuss books. So with controversial books on everyone's minds, it's perhaps quite relevant to talk about The Great Gatsby, which is a book that's also faced. It's one of those books that's both that in some schools it's required reading, and in some schools it's been banned. But I don't think whatever you feel about The Great Gatsby, it's not a book that people can ignore. It's one of the great books about the American experience. And there's a special power to the final paragraphs of the book, I think. Famously, when Roger Ebert visited Boulder each year, he had a friend who they would meet at a restaurant, and his friend would recite for everyone the final passages of The Great Gatsby. It has that power that it's something that you can perform. So, as a thank you for listening, I thought I would leave you with a reading from the end of The Great Gatsby. And you can read along on the screen, or you can follow along. It's featured on the main page of the site. I'll be sure to also read David Stoner's short stories as well. Those have been getting some excellent feedback. And after this, we'll sign off. Let's see here. Oh. Oh, I see what that was. So this is from the end of the book. Most of the big shore places were closed now, and there were hardly any lights, except the shadowy moving glow of a ferry boat across the sound. And as the moon rose higher, the inessential houses began to melt away, until gradually I became aware of the old island here that flowered once for Dutch sailors' eyes, a fresh green breast of the New World. Its vanished trees, the house that had made way for Gatsby's house, the trees that had made way for Gatsby's house, had once pandered in whispers to the last and greatest of all human dreams. For a transitory, enchanted moment, man must have held his breath in the presence of this continent, compelled into an aesthetic contemplation he neither understood nor desired, face to face for the last time in history with something commensurate to his capacity for wonder. And as I sat there brooding on the old, unknown world, I thought of Gatsby's wonder when he first picked out the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. He had come a long way to this blue lawn, and his dream must have seemed so close that he could hardly fail to grasp it. He did not know that it was already behind him, somewhere back in that vast obscurity beyond the city, where the dark fields of the Republic rolled on under the night. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch our arms out further, and one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to sharing more updates with you in the coming weeks. Hope you all have a good evening, and be sure to stay safe. Bye.